let's move into little interesting comment that Coach K said. So Coach K, Illinois, beat the Duke Blue Devils last night, and
was defeated by Illinois last night.
Yeah, so I said lost too, didn't I?
You said a lot of things there.
Illinois beat Duke. That's all you need to know. Second loss for Duke at Cameron Indoor this season. They lost to Michigan State.
Loss. Illinois is 2-0 against them at Cameron.
Yeah.
Only team with more than one victory, undefeated against Duke at Cameron. Just putting out there.
Right to the mountaintop. Well, yeah. I guess Coach K had some comments where changing the opinion a little bit, Dave, where he went ahead and said the exact comment here from ESPN: I would just like for safety, the mental and physical health of our players and staff to assess where we're at. We're just plowing through this, is another comment he said. People are saying that the next 6 weeks are going to be the worst. To me, it's already pretty bad. On the other side of it, there are these vaccines that are coming out. By the end of the month, 20 million vaccine shots will be given. By the end of January or February, another 100 million. Should we not reassess that? See just what would be best? Kind of leaning into the, hey, we shouldn't be playing basketball during this pandemic. Where was this before the season, Coach? Like, is this just something where is Coach K having sour grapes because his team has been beat twice at home this year? A place where usually teams don't beat Duke because of that big student section that's right up on the floor.
Yeah, there are a lot of people who do that hometown. But to be fair, we are, literally 2,500 people are dying a day at this point for the last couple of days.
He's not wrong.
It's terrifying. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure that a lot of the kids on the team have family members or friends who might have COVID or, might be experiencing some of the extremes or may have lost someone to it. Mm-hmm. And you're telling them that they can't go home because they're playing basketball. Mm-hmm. Like, that's the shit we don't know. And we don't hear those stories out of these people because they don't get the media time because it's college.
Hell, look at Cat in the NBA. We didn't know about him and his 7 family members until it came out.
Incredibly tough for someone to lose that much family in that quick of a time span. So with the sheer number of people in college basketball, I guarantee you someone on every team knows someone who has passed away from COVID. So being kind of put in that position, I can imagine that like the longer this goes on, the more people on that team are going to be directly affected by this. Mm-hmm. So I get it. He's probably trying to, again, as a college coach, you're like, part-time father figure for these kids too.
Yeah.
Like, that's a tough situation to be put into where these kids are looking to you for answers. You don't have answers. And, the best you could be like is, hey, if you want to go be with your family, that's fine. And the 100% a right answer. There's no wrong answer. If you want to go home, be with family, do it. If you want to stay here and play basketball, do it. But it does put you in a really rough position. And I think that that's something as more and more people are being affected by this pandemic that that's probably hit home a lot closer to him and his team and his family. So I get that, he even understands that, hey, me saying this right now doesn't sound great because my team just lost, but it doesn't make it any less true.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like you said, we got our butts beat for the good of the game and the mental health, physical player, the staff. We need to constantly look at this thing. I think that's a smart thing to do. I know the NCAA is worried about the end game. There's not as worried about the game we're playing right now. And my big thing is, like you just mentioned, Dave, even if he's aware that this doesn't look good, it's kind of one of those things to where I think of the fact of there was no way for you to say this right now and it for to look good, because the way it comes off is sour grapes. If you had won these 2 games, are you publicly saying the same thing?
Can you say this? That hits different.
Yeah.
The point's not any less valid though. Mm-hmm. I think at least starting the conversation is something that's good, that's happening from someone who is as highly regarded as Coach K. Mm-hmm. I think that's the positive I take away from it. What you're saying is not wrong, and coming from someone in a high position, this is great to hear that, hey, there are second thoughts about this season going on right now, and we shouldn't only be focused at the tournament and the money.
Different than football. Different from what we've heard from the football coaches.
Different, yeah. So again, like, what do you think grand scheme? Do you think that we see a stoppage in play at some point if things get? I mean, literally 2,500 people died today. Like,
Mm-hmm.
do you think at some point we do see a stoppage? Oh, like near Christmas, like as we get
No.
closer and the numbers continue to grow.
Unless there's a mass amount of actual athletes getting infected, no, I don't, because the way I see the NCAA viewing this is they're in a bubble to where it's like if
But they're not.
no, but like I'm not saying like that kind of a bubble. I'm saying
Okay.
like it doesn't matter if Uncle Joe and Grandma Sue die of COVID. Hell, it doesn't even matter if Mama Jean dies of COVID. If none of the athletes are getting sick and there's not a mass amount of like, obviously there have been games canceled, games postponed.
Literally the 1-2 matchup in the nation, Gonzaga versus Baylor.
And Gonzaga had two straight games because of it. Like,
we'll wait to see if what their next game scheduled will be, and if everyone is going to be eligible to play in that game. We don't know yet.
Yeah, and I think that it's going to be the sense of there's not going to be enough of that for the NCAA to say, no, we're going to cancel the season. If anything, it's going to be what we see in football, where it's like, just keep the season going. We'll either fit games in or like, especially like non-conference games, especially right now, like non-conference games are to the point where it's like, whatever, this game doesn't fucking matter. I know number 1, number 2 would have been good, but it doesn't matter in the end scheme of things, because if you win your conference or win your conference tournament, you get an automatic bid anyways. And plus the selection committee is going to do the same thing the playoff committee's doing and kind of take everything into consideration.
Right. But the quality of the game has already suffered from it. Yeah. Like, do you think if Duke had the Powder Puff lineup like they normally do to start their season, they'd look a whole lot better by the time they're playing the fucking ACC? Yeah. 100%. But the problem is they started off playing actual competition. Mm-hmm. They didn't get those warm-up games essentially to start their season out. So like we're already getting a lower quality basketball than we should be because of that. Mm-hmm. And it's a question of, hey, if so-and-so is going to be out for a couple weeks, now we're watching a team who's down a notch. Like it's just like, I don't know at what point of quality loss are the coaches / players going to stop, or is there just, hey, the NCAA, like you said, will just push on. Mm-hmm. It's not about the player. It's about the brand. It's about the March Madness. It's about all the money. We're going to make this happen regardless of you.
Or I'll go on a limb and say this, Duke ain't that good this year.
Oh, there is that.
Yeah, like the whole thing of like quality where it's like, yes,
it's not just a Duke problem now.
Yeah, like I understand where you're coming from, but like looking at this game that happened last night, Duke, Illinois, like I look at this and the first thing I think of is what Coach Brad Underwood said after the Baylor game, where it was like, that's tough defense. Iowa's got to understand that's the defense they're going to play against them. Good thing we're not playing a team that plays as good of defense as Baylor does. And Duke didn't play defense as good as Baylor did. Like, that's what I saw from it, to where it's like...
Only defense as good as Baylor can.
Yeah. I looked at it and I go, like, yes, this season is, like we said about all the sports, microcosm. NBA will probably be the only one where we look at it and go, 2 seasons are affected. Maybe like NBA, NHL, and MLB might have the like 2 seasons are affected by it because they had it at the beginning and then they're starting a new season so soon. But like for college football and college basketball, we're hoping that this is the only season affected by COVID, to where, yes, I do understand what you're saying, where it's like, we didn't have the normal off season. We didn't have the normal, like, usually Duke plays like 2 exhibition games against schools that they beat 100-30. And then it's like, okay, we got a little bit of a cupcake game, 1 and 2, which they still had some of those. Like, I think they did, like, their first 2 opponents were teams that were not Michigan State, not Illinois. They were like, I know the Elon game, I think got postponed or canceled. But like, other than that, you didn't have the normal run-in. So, like, I understand that's
the schedule was, let's see. They played 1 game against, who the fuck is this? Copen State Eagles.
Exactly.
That was it. Then it was Michigan State.
Okay. Because
then Bell
then
Knights.
Then it was Then
So,
it was the Elon game that got canceled or
correct.
postponed. Okay.
Whatever their opening one was, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I get that part.
Two free games and then one powder puff game. So yeah, like that's 3 games of getting yourself in better shape to have better quality. But the whole point is like, hey, basketball is different than football in my mind.
Yeah.
The team is a little smaller, which helps, but at the same time, one player being out means a whole lot more. And if one player gets on a team, the whole team shut down for a while. You're going to miss out on what, 4 games maybe, and then you're going to miss out on more games from that one individual player who may or may not experience, minor or severe symptoms. So, like, I'm just concerned at the point of like, at some point something could go wrong. I know college football is going to be like, hey, we're fuck it. Like Trevor Lawrence goes down, and we're in the Final Four for the national championship. What happens then? What if they lose a top player in one of the top 4 teams?
Yeah,
don't give a shit. They're just playing. It could be the worst game ever. They don't care.
One question I want to ask you is, and this kind of brings Kentucky in because we've talked about Kentucky too. Is this year really gonna put I kind of want to say like a tax on schools that have been like the one and done parameter, where like Kentucky is usually that team where it's Coach Cal has a ton of one and doners, and is this season going to be like, hey, if you've got a couple one and done like big athletes, maybe your team doesn't do as well? Because like Illinois, you look at it and it's like, yeah, we got Curbelo and Miller that are freshmen, but like Io is a 3rd-year player. Kofi is not a freshman. Georgie's not a freshman. Trent Frazier's not. Like, is it going to be where these more upperclassmen heavy teams, Baylor, Zag, I believe, has more upperclassmen, Illinois, are they going to be the favorites in a year like this? Because it's like, oh, they've been basically...
Older players are always favorites.
What?
Older teams are always favorites in the tourney.
I mean, to a degree.
Literally, Anthony Davis is the last person to fucking like heave his team through the fucking playoffs. Like, we watched that young Duke team with Zion, RJ, and Cam. Obviously, we know about the injury, but like, they got their shit knocked in. Let's be honest. You can be a top tier team with a bunch of young kids, but like, yeah, it does not mean that you're going to win in a tournament when the games are close and like it comes down to role players doing the little things to win games. Yes, individual performance in basketball has never meant more, but like, I don't think that we're in a situation where no. Older teams always are favored in the tournament because they have better players who have been around longer. It's just because they're a better college player doesn't mean they're a better prospect. That's what you got to remind yourself.
Yeah, I don't know. I just maybe like that thought just came in because like Kentucky's been one where they haven't won it all, but like by later in the year, it's usually been a like we've never had it to where like maybe it's because Duke has lost 2 games early on, Kentucky's lost 3 games early on now to where it's like maybe this year because of all the parameters, it's just going to be different than anything we've seen before.
I think it's just because they don't get to practice as much. They didn't get the warm-up games that they normally get there. The whole point of going to one of these schools is playing for a coach that everyone loves and respects and getting nationally televised games with scouts attending every single game and some practices. That's why you go to those schools. That's 110%. Has nothing to do with winning or losing in college basketball. That's a fucking, like, whatever. That's not even in my realm of thought if I'm a kid trying to make it in the NBA. College basketball is an experience, but it is all about marketing. And that is 100% the reason why. Shit, you hear the guys in the G League who sign up for the Ignite shit. They're like, I'm not saying it, but I wish I was playing on national TV, for one of these top teams.
Yeah.
But instead I'm working out in some gym.
There.
Yeah, because they may be better players, but like they're working out in gyms, getting help from professional, coaches, trainers, all the best that they could possibly get, but they're not on the radar because they're not playing nationally televised games. So you could see someone like Josh Green's stock being lower, Kuminga's stock being lower, like Daishan Nix, someone who's benefited from being on this team with better talent, and he'll probably be a better player for it, but he might not go as high because he's not out there for everyone to see on a national market.
I kind of almost, the last thing, and this is like my, not retort, but like just response to it is, like I look at this past draft we had though, where Edwards obviously went like, so the thought doesn't completely finish out that way where like Edwards was on TV more so than Wiseman and Ball. But like Wiseman and Ball were still in discussion for the number one pick, to where it's like, I kind of have a feeling like if we're talking draft, it's like if you're that good of a player, teams are still coming down to crunch time going to scout you. It's the blog boys and the fans that maybe don't talk about you as much because they didn't see you play on the tourney. Kind of like how Pat had a little, not quarrel, but a problem with the Discord, because it's like a lot of people were saying, oh, I don't know who this person is because they didn't see him in the tourney, which a lot of the non-hardcore college basketball fans don't get introduced to some guys until tourney basketball, where everything is on national TV.
I would argue that LaMelo Ball has had more publicity than anyone who's ever been in college basketball.
Because of the Ball brand, you're right. Point taken.
He's been on national television since he was 14.
Good point.
Also, the only player I know who has been on the WWE Raw. You know?
Hey, Karl Malone and Dennis Rodman were on WCW.
The only high schooler who I know who's been on Raw who's not in the Make-A-Wish Foundation. Let's put it that way.
Who's not in the Make-A-Wish?
He said something else, Jake. Pretty sure. Pretty sure he said something else. Yeah. But yeah, let's not go there.
Yeah.
The point is, yeah, you cannot type that. You are correct.
Type that.
And James Wiseman obviously was famously controversial, but he was the number one overall pick out of the high school. He was the number one high school player, and he went to go play for Penny fucking Hardaway on a super team and got like that. I would say I don't 100% disagree with you, but I do think that talent does shine. And like, you're right. Casual fans, the tournament means more because it's the spotlight. But I would also say to people who love or people who love to shit on that, is like, the tournament also puts people in a situation where they don't have experience before. Like, those are win or go home games, and you can't practice for that kind of pressure. Yeah. Some guys are on a level where they can excel. They elevate their game under pressure. And those are the guys you want on your team. That's the Tyler Hero that we saw. He's someone who excelled. That is the
Steph Curry. I would say Steph Curry. Yeah, they never Steph Curry didn't win it, but how deep he brought a team like Davidson for like 3 straight years.
It's all about making the moment and handling yourself under pressure. And we've seen time and time again. Not everyone who does that is a superstar. Obviously,
Babyface Davis.
What's up?
I was gonna say Glenn Babyface Davis wins a title at UNC, NBA career not.
He get a ring still.
Yeah, he got a ring, but it wasn't like we thought his NBA career would be a little bit better than it was overall.
Anthony Davis is my point. You know, it's like, yes, superstars have had great runs in the tourney and looked great doing it. But at the same time, it's Jarrett Culver, someone who's like struggling early in his career. And he was someone who was a darling going into the tournament and got exposed in the tournament, though. That was the difference. Someone who came out looking worse because he could not carry a team on his own, because his shot selection was poor, because he couldn't knock down shots without the help. And it's like, the tournament is like a giant magnifying glass for a college career. So while it is extremely naive to be like, oh, you don't know that guy because you didn't play in the tournament, it also lets scouts and lets people who enjoy game basketball see these kids through a magnifying glass. Like Chumo Keke, someone who, without the tournament, I wouldn't absolutely gush and love, because I got to watch him do something not only in his conference tournament, but also then the actual tournament. So it's just, there's a lot that goes into it, but I don't know what the topic was anymore, man.
I mean, I love this. I love it. Like, and this kind of makes me excited for the mock draft we're going to be doing soon, because like we're going to be looking at these prospects for the first time.